Welcome to another episode of the GunBlog VarietyCast with your hosts, Sean Sorrentino and Aaron Paulette.
Welcome to episode 150 of GunBlog VarietyCast Radio, a proud member of the SelfDefense Radio Network. How are you doing, Aaron?
Well, both my mom and I have had a bad case of allergy sniffles this week, and I don't know what plant is causing it, but something sure is, because we both end up sniffling and blowing our noses for hours, and it's just so attractive, isn't it, that... But other than that, I'm good. I managed to solve my fatigue problem by taking those Jet Alert caffeine pills I mentioned I don't know how many episodes back. Now, see, I can't drink a lot of coffee because the acid upsets my stomach, and too much sugar, like from soft drinks, gives me a headache. So I started taking Jet Alert, I don't know if it was this weekend, something like that. And I've been taking one pill each morning, and it has made a huge difference for me in terms of energy and motivation. And the bottle says it's non-habit forming and to save his coffee. And of course, advertisers would never, ever lie. So, we'll see how that holds true. And also, I want to thank our listeners who answered our request of a few weeks ago to write into the show. I've received 3 emails so far. I don't know how many you've received. And I'm going to turn them into segment fodder when I'm finished with my series on surviving survival. But, Sean, I can see from the Skype video that you were just chomping at the bit to say something. What's on your mind?
Well, Aaron, I'm pretty pissed off right now. Miguel's going to be addressing this in his segment a little bit later, but for my part, I'm pretty angry with the gun community about our willingness to get involved in fights that we know basically nothing about. I posted something on Facebook about a week ago, and the anti-gunners are demanding to know why the NRA hasn't gotten involved in the Philando Castile death. I, quite reasonably, pointed out that the anti-gunners don't give a hoot in hell about either Philando Castile or the NRA. They just want to see us fight amongst ourselves. And what happens in the comments? We fought amongst ourselves. Here's a little truth bomb. You don't know what happened. You might think you know. You might be utterly convinced you know. But you don't know. We've seen 2 videos. One that is filmed entirely after the incident, and now one dash cam video. What can't you see? You can't see if Mr. Castile was doing anything that could reasonably have been perceived to be a lethal threat to the officer. You didn't see that. I've got clowns on one side screaming that, of course, Mr. Castile is totally innocent. He couldn't possibly have been reaching for his gun. And I've got clowns on the other side screaming, he was stoned, he was a bad guy, he totally deserved to get shot. And both sides are wrong. The case was decided on whether or not it was reasonable for the officer to have believed that Mr. Castile was reaching for the gun he said he had. And since the prosecution could not convince a jury that it was unreasonable for the officer to have believed that Mr. Castile was an immediate lethal threat, they acquitted him. That's the exact same standard they would use for you and me. And I know that someone out there right now screaming, oh, cops get held to a lower standard. Baloney. If I had a full-color video complete with audio of me telling somebody, don't reach for it, don't pull it out, and then shooting him, and then a gun falling out of his pants as he was pulled from the vehicle, it wouldn't even have gone to trial. The prosecutor would have seen immediately that there's no way he could have convinced anybody that I didn't reasonably believe that I was an immediate threat of death or serious bodily injury. That doesn't mean that shooting Mr. Castile was a good thing. It just means it wasn't a criminal act. And now we've got every Facebook use of force expert out there opining, well, if they'd have just done this one thing instead. Really? Let me tell you what's going on here. This is one big attempt by everyone who shoots off his mouth to say, well, that would never happen to me. Bullshit. It can happen to you. That's the deal you made when you put a gun on your hip and went out in public. You decided that on balance, the likelihood of something bad happening to you as a result of carrying a gun was less than the likelihood that having a gun could help you out. But there are risks, and one of those risks is that you might encounter a cop who is too stupid, too angry, too belligerent, or just too poorly trained for you to survive his mistakes. Oh, and you think that you could just act in a certain way and that'll totally diffuse the situation and let you get away safely? Well, what if you get this guy angry because he just can't understand why you, the motorist, is trying to hand him this card in the middle of a traffic stop?
I'm so close to caving in your goddamn head. You with me?
I'm not.
You're just a stupid human being.
Yes, sir.
fucking talking to me with a goddamn gun? You want me to pull mine and stick it to your head?
No, sir. No, sir.
People like you don't deserve to fucking move throughout public, period. Stupid idiot.
And to top it off, when Canton PD tried to fire him for multiple incidents like this, he got his job back. So don't tell me it's never going to happen to you. It can, and it just might. And you could very well get shot by some idiot cop who gets scared or who's a loose cannon like this guy. As for the Castile shooting, the bottom line is you don't know what happened. And if you're saying that shooting him was the right thing to do, you're wrong. You don't know. And if your idea of justice is to set your judgment against that of the jury, maybe you ought to reflect on what happened in this country when the mob decided certain people should be punished without the benefit of a fair trial. Why don't we head on into the show?
Thanks to Lucky Gunner and Remington for their support of GunBlog VarietyCast Radio. From Golden Saber to range rounds, get a full lineup of quality Remington ammo that ships fast at luckygunner.com.
All right, Aaron, why don't you intro Beth for us? This is probably going to be better than what I had to say earlier, I'm sure of it.
Beth wrote a book, and because it has curriculum that goes with it, that makes it a textbook as well. It's called Women's Handgun and Self-Defense Fundamentals, and she's here to tell us all about it.
So I'm really excited to be able to share this week about something that's been kind of on my heart and my mind for a very, very long time, and that is my brand new first ever book called Women's Handgun and Self-Defense Fundamentals. It is being produced through the USCCA, and it is not ready yet for anyone to order or purchase. But I know that we recently released it kind of like a special offer for any of the people that went through our training counselor course in West Bend, Wisconsin, just a few weeks back. So I know that there are some copies already floating around. And so far I've gotten some really great thoughts and feedback from people who have had a chance to look through it. Now, the point of this book, Women's Handgun and Self-Defense Fundamentals, is basically to offer a stepping stone. This is a curriculum-based book, so it is kind of more of a textbook, even though there are many little instances and anecdotes from my own life and my own journey. It really is meant as a learning experience and as a tool that can be utilized in a classroom setting. But how I structured this, again, as a stepping stone for, first and foremost, maybe those women who have never touched a gun before, or they've never shot a gun, or they're completely uncomfortable with firearms. This is that starting off point to welcome them and make them feel really comfortable about getting into firearms training. But it's more than just that. This book is actually separated into 3 separate parts. There is the basic pistol, the intermediate pistol, and the defensive pistol. So honestly, it was my intent that women could basically get into this curriculum or utilize this book or the e-learning program or a combination of all of the above and be able to enter in wherever they feel like they needed it. Maybe they already know all the basics, but they're ready for the next steps. They're ready for not just the physical skills, but also the mindset that comes with shooting, and most specifically, any kind of shooting that would be self-defense related. This is not a marksmanship book. This is not how to be a better competitive shooter. There are little touches and little thoughts about each of those, but the whole point of this is really to make more confident, capable, well-armed females across the nation. Now, of course, this is curriculum written by women, me, for women, but we're not basically limiting that to only women instructors. I know there's a lot of women out there that are just so excited for the opportunity to utilize this curriculum because of its focus. But I've had a lot of guys over the years almost just begging for this information. They're like, I've got tons and tons of women who are interested in classes. I've taught women-only classes before, but I need a way to reach them better. I need to be more effective. I need to know how to basically give them the information so that it makes sense, so that it sticks, and so that it's useful to them. And not that any of this is being dumbed down. This is not some dumbed down version of firearms. That's not it at all. I think women will just understand that we learn differently and we respond to things differently. And oftentimes we kind of expect to be treated differently. And in the classroom setting that's very male dominated, and in a classroom setting that's firearms related, a lot of times those brand new ladies especially might be lost in the jargon, something that we take for granted because we speak that kind of speak every day. But this also gives women an opportunity to look at themselves and the reason why they want to learn about firearms. And I have found time and time again that when women can share that reason why, and they don't have to get into all the nitty-gritty details, but at least, feel comfortable and confident within a classroom setting to say, I'm here because I'm afraid, or I'm here because I want to better my chances of protecting myself, or I'm here because I have grandkids that I'm worried about, or I'm here because I went through a traumatic experience, whatever that may be. Women bond and women just come together when that can be expressed openly and freely. And I've taught this class for years to hundreds of women, and I have found that they come into the classroom as students, but they leave as friends. They're exchanging numbers, they're finding one another in social media, but they're also giving me hugs and saying thank you, and also saying, what's next? So again, the whole point of this women's handgun and self-defense fundamentals is to offer women a chance to see the world of firearms for women by a woman, to hopefully help them along in their journey, and to encourage them not to stop here, that this is not the end, that there is always opportunity to learn more and to improve our skills and to be more comfortable and competent and confident with a firearm in order to protect ourselves and the ones that we love. I will be providing more about the book later on when we have an official release date. Keep in mind there's going to be e-learning, PowerPoint, instructor material, and everything else going along with the tangible book itself. But fingers crossed, maybe eyes crossed, that it will be available sometime in July. And I'll provide that information for you at some point, but you will be able to find it on the USCCA website in our store, hopefully very, very soon. And I hope you guys will enjoy it, recommend it, share it with your friends, and maybe even utilize it to teach your own classes. Until next time, stay safe and be well armed.
You can read more from Beth at usconcealedcarry.com/blog and click on Pacifiers and Peacemakers in the left sidebar.
This podcast runs on your donations. Go to GunBlog VarietyCast.com and click on the donate or the subscribe button in the right sidebar. You can make a one-time donation of any amount or subscribe for as little as $2 a month. That doesn't sound like much, but we pay our server costs monthly, and a little help from you is a big help to us.
Felons Behaving Badly. $1 million bond for man accused of kidnapping family, forcing them to shop at Target.
Okay, kidnapping bad, forcing people to do things bad, but of all the things you're going to force someone to do, forcing them to shop at Target? What?
I think it's layers and layers of fact checkers and editors. I guess the headline is literally true, but perhaps doesn't mean what they're trying to make it mean? I don't know. Dateline, Durham, North Carolina. The 29-year-old man arrested for kidnapping 2 victims at gunpoint, along with their children, and forcing them to drive to ATMs for cash, will remain behind bars under more than $1 million bond. Suspect appeared before a judge Wednesday following his arrest on Tuesday. Suspect is believed to be involved in 4 cases over the last 4 days, Durham police said. Suspect was arrested around 8:30 a.m. Tuesday after police said he forced 2 adults and 2 young children to take him to an ATM and then to a Target store. He was originally jailed under $1 million bond, but in court Wednesday, prosecutors asked that bond be raised to $2 million. The judge asked Suspect if he could make $1 million bond, to which Suspect replied, "No, I can't make a $100,000 bond." The judge then denied the state's motion. At this point, if there's not an ability to make a $1 million bond, there's no need to increase it further, the judge said. Durham police said Suspect was arrested after one of the victims was able to ask a Target store clerk for help. The case Tuesday began when the suspect knocked on the door of a house in the West End neighborhood around 7 a.m. Tuesday and asked for money. A resident gave the man money, but the man then forced the residents, a man, woman, and 2 young children, out of the house and into the victim's vehicle at gunpoint, police said. The gunman made the driver take him to a convenience store, then to the Target on Durham Chapel Hill Boulevard, according to police. Also on Wednesday, Durham police filed new charges against Suspect stemming from a July 20th incident. Police said around 6:45 a.m., officers were called to Moorhead Avenue in response to a robbery call. A victim told police he was approached by a man who demanded money. When the suspect was told no, the suspect grabbed the victim's cup of coffee, took a sip, and then complained it was too sweet. At that point, Durham police said the suspect pulled out a gun and demanded money. Police said the suspect also attempted to steal the victim's car, but ran away when another vehicle drove by. Suspect is charged with robbery with a dangerous weapon and assault by pointing a gun in this case. Suspect is scheduled to appear in court again July 13th.
What a delightful human being. But, I'm just certain that this is a one-time thing. A choir boy turning his life around just made one bad decision, right?
Well, let's take a look at his permanent record. Resisting officer, misdemeanor, class 2. 2 counts breaking and entering vehicles, attempted, misdemeanor, class 1. 5 counts of larceny, misdemeanor, class 1. Willful wanton injury to real property, misdemeanor, class 1. 2 counts assault on an officer, state employee, misdemeanor, class A1. Possess schedule 2, felon, class I. Possession with intent to sell, schedule 2, felon, class H. Possess with intent to sell, schedule 1, conspiracy, felon, class H. 2 counts, possess with intent to sell, schedule 1, felon, class H. And 2 counts, sell, schedule 2, felon, class G.
So the word of the day, boys and girls, is recidivist.
Recidivist. Barron's back with more on the expected second wave of ransomware in
Tech Tips, Tech Tips, Tech Tips.
You are damaging my comm.
Tech Tips with the Barron.
Hey, kids. So, it's another week, and there's another crypto malware, kids. So, here's the deal. It's exactly what I warned you about 3 weeks ago. So, if you've patched your stuff, if you've kept up to date, you should mostly be fine, except there is a caveat. People around you can result in your own infection. Here's what they did. They establish a foothold on a PC, and they start to try and move laterally. So if, for instance, you have a file share on your computer that your wife has access to, and for one reason or another she opens this malicious attachment, they will scan your network, find the share with access, and then they will they will actually BitLocker your device. There's a couple things here that I am going to reiterate over and over and over again. The importance of offline backups. Maintain a copy on an external hard drive, thumb drive, something that is offline and is not touchable, because if and when this happens, your recovery is going to be based off of that snapshot that nothing had access to. The other thing is, and I would hope that just about everyone considers this common sense now, do not open random attachments. Not only do not open random attachments, do not open attachments that you even think are legitimate. If you get an attachment from somebody, email them back and say, hey, did you actually send me this attachment? Even better though, call them or send them a text message. Use an alternate form of communication to actually establish that yes, in fact, they were sending you that attachment and they meant to send you that attachment, and they can even inform you what's in the attachment. Attachments in general are very, very bad, especially attachments related to Windows, because they allow macros and they can execute code from within inside the document. So don't open attachments. This also includes PDF, pictures, the whole 9 yards. Attachments are bad. Okay. Additionally, stay on top of updates. It appears currently that this new Cryptolocker is actually making use of the same exploit in WannaCry, which actually was patched back in March. What's interesting is there's a couple new exploits that are thoroughly and well documented and are known to be able to be exploitable in the wild that they could be using instead that are much more recent. Instead, they're still relying on WannaCry. The impact is massive. They've taken down multiple different installations, including the Chernobyl radiation monitoring network, why that was even on a network that had public access to begin with, I don't know, but it's down. They've had to resort to other methods, and it's spreading far and wide, and it is just unbelievably nasty. So, again, kids, I am warning you, as always, back up your crap, don't open random attachments, keep your stuff up to date. 3 things, really simple.
Barron still blogs at the-minuteman.org.
Miguel is fired up today. What's got him angry is the same thing that I'm irritated at. Those members of the pro-civil rights community who are blindly doing exactly what the anti-gunners are telling them.
Hello and welcome once again to the Mental Flea Market. Warning, I am going on a full rant today. and you may want to get violet and other sensitive ears away from whatever transducer is propagating my voice. And at the count of 3, 2, 1, rant on. So the trial against Officer Jeronimo Llanes for the murder of Philando Castile ended with a non-guilty verdict. And it was not unsurprising that the usual suspects came out of the woodwork to scream injustice and racism. I was not even surprised to see some of my gun owners, mostly relegated to the chest-beater Sovereign City faction, to also come out whining about the result. What left me speechless and pissed off was some of our side actually demanded the NRA immediately pronounce itself against the verdict and in police in general. Say f***ing what? Listen, before I go with the rant, let me state my opinion on the case. When I first saw the video taken inside Castile's cars, I thought, damn, this does not look good for the cop, okay? But I'm older and wiser, and I figured I was not getting all the information. When the verdict came out and finally some other info was available, like, the dash camera from the police car, my opinion is that both parties screwed up, but without malice, and that the screw-ups ended up with the worst possible outcome, the death of an innocent. Did the mistakes they make rise to the level of criminality? I'm gonna have to agree with the jury and say no. That does not mean the Llanes and the city are exempt from civil liability, but as far as criminal culpability, I just simply do not see it. I don't see the mens rea, the guilty mind. Now, back to the rant. I glanced at some media articles and social media posts from the opposition, guys from gun control groups, bitching about the NRA not standing for Philando Castile as he was a concealed carry licensee. This was immediately after the verdict, and anybody who has paid half a second to anything the NRA does in cases like this knows that headquarters does not say crap right off the bat. Other than the basic, yes, we are aware of it, we know. Now, remember, it took well over a week for the NRA to say something official about Sandy Hook in a press conference that was a mastery of mind-f***ing with the press. So when I saw people allegedly in the gun culture lockstepping themselves with almost the same lines of bull coming out of Mom's Man or Everytown, I blew a f***ing fuse. All of a sudden, you need to prove that you are tough gun guy cool because you don't like the NRA, and it leads you to be a f***ing parrot and saying the same shit assholes that are working full-time to get rid of your rights and your guns are saying? What kind of idiot are you that wants to f*** it up for the rest of your fellow gun owners? You're telling me that if the NRA comes out praising the platitudes of Mr. Castile, or dear Shannon Watts will not take to Twitter to say that Wayne LaPierre thinks it's okay to toke and carry? That the NRA endorses the carrying and shooting of weapons under the influence of drugs? You guys do know that during the trial, the autopsy revealed the presence of THC in Castile's body, right? And no, the excuse that he was on high does not enter in play because Bloomberg and company are not going to give a shit about that. Only that they can use the lab results against the NRA. And then, of course, Shannon Watts will say also that the NRA does not care that people under the influence have guns and confront the poor cops on the streets so they can get killed. Now, the other side of the coin. If the NRA takes sides with Llanes, then shit. We are a bunch of modern racists that have substituted hanging black people from the industry for shooting them inside their cars with fascist cops. You think I'm exaggerating? Go check the Moms Demand Facebook page and you will find them flipping on cops faster than pancakes in an IHOP after a Sunday church services. Although lately they have been more Black Lives Matter than pro-law enforcement. So yes, I'm pissed as hell that people that swear there are no compromise on guns and let you know loud and clear suddenly become mouthpieces for Michael Bloomberg and his gun control machinery. People, do not play racial politics. Don't play identity politics. They invented that shit. They're much better than us, and it solves nothing. Stop f***ing helping them. Okay, I'm done. I don't even card. I'm not gonna send links or nothing or contact me. If you don't like what I said, screw you, okay? See you next time.
Get more Miguel daily at gunfreezone.net.
This is Bob Main from the Handgun World podcast, reminding you that this podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
We have a special guest today, Allie Slocum, a friend of mine who finally took the plunge and took her first gun class. Allie Slocum is a friend of mine from Colorado who used to co-host with me on a sci-fi podcast called The Wrong Fun Podcast. That lasted for about 11 episodes and closed down last year. Welcome to the show, Allie.
Thanks, Sean. It's been a while. I've kind of missed this.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of work, though.
Yeah.
So several months ago, you told me that you were seriously considering learning how to shoot a gun. And since I was all about guns over here, you're like, hey, what should I do? Where should I go? How did that come about?
Well, I started dating a gun guy about 5 years ago, and I've always been kind of terrified of them. When I first reached out to you, it was after a trip of his back east. When he would head back home for a visit, I would tend to hole up at his house and watch his Netflix and use his internet because I didn't have any. And he always keeps a gun under the pillow, or sometimes he would keep it on my side of the bed when I wasn't there. So I came down and went to crawl in bed, and there's this gun laying in the bed. I didn't even want to touch it because I was afraid. I was terrified the thing was going to go off. I was just kind of freaking out about it. And so I ended up sleeping on his side. And after that, I knew we were moving out to the middle of nowhere. And I knew that I would probably need some skills at some point. But I noticed the town that I was living in, they were hosting a concealed carry class. And I thought, well, it'd be kind of cool if I surprised him with not being absolutely terrified of them anymore. It was going to be a surprise. And then so I reached out to you. So, yay.
All right. So now hopefully at some point, somebody's explained to you and possibly to your boyfriend that maybe just sticking a gun under a pillow is not the best plan.
I know. I don't know why he does that, but he does.
Well, okay. Talk to Jenna on this. She'll make a couple of recommendations. But I have this really great lockbox where you just punch a couple of buttons on the top in a set order, pops right open, leave it loaded, and it just jumps right out at you.
Oh, that's good to know. I'll have to pass that along to him.
It just so happens that one of the former guests here at GunBlog VarietyCast Radio is Jenna Meeks, who I was just talking about. And she's a firearms instructor in Colorado. I said, well, you know what? Maybe the two of you'd work together pretty well. And I hear in about, a month? A little bit over a month ago that you two got together finally and took a class from her. So how did that go?
Finally, yes. It took me probably close to a year to get together with her. It became apparent that it needed to happen because, like I said, I knew we were buying land. We ended up buying 16 acres in the mountains. And the first weekend we were there, we woke up to giant kitty tracks in the driveway. So I knew it was kind of probably a good idea. I also, just last week, we spotted a bear on our cameras, so I'm really, really glad that I went and took the class. To be honest, both the boyfriend and I thought I would bail at the last minute because I'm such a chicken with this kind of stuff. But I sucked it up and headed down there and met her at the gate. It was kind of nerve-wracking at first. She gave me the, okay, if you get shot, I'll drag you out to the main road and call 911. And if I get shot, and like I kind of freaked out at that point in my head, I was like, oh God, what have I done? And then she's like, well, we'll get started. And then she's like, are you okay? And I was like, yes, I'm okay. But after that, we messed around with the plastic one. It's like a casting of a gun, I think.
Oh, like a blue gun?
Yes.
So what was that for?
It was just to kind of show me how to hold it and, like, you know, how to keep it downrange and just kind of basics, you know, how it works, how it operates. She showed me stuff on that first and had me hold it and just to kind of get comfortable with the idea of it. And then after I got comfortable with the blue one, we went to the regular one. That was kind of nerve-wracking. I loaded up a couple magazines. After a while, we started shooting, and it was not fun at first. But after a while, I loosened up quite a bit. I actually started having fun, which I didn't expect I would. I thought it was going to be 2 hours of hell, and it wasn't. It was actually kind of nice.
So tell me about Jenna. I've only actually met her via Skype. What's she like?
She's pretty awesome. I really like her a lot. She's tiny, but she's packed full of dynamite. That's probably the best way to describe her. Tiny, but packed full of dynamite. She is awesome.
So Jenna runs Carry On Colorado with her husband. What other things did you do in class besides play with a blue gun and just load the gun and shoot it? What things jump out at you? What do you remember most?
We talked a lot about form, like how to stand, and it was mostly just what was comfortable to me. She taught me how to aim, which I hadn't known how to do before. I tried to shoot the boyfriend's shotgun a couple weeks before the class, and it was I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with that thing.
Oh, so you have to actually aim with a shotgun?
I don't know. I guess. I don't know. I've never... It was the first time shooting one, so I was kind of just kind of pointing it in the direction I wanted to go, but I don't know what I was actually hitting, but not the target.
It's one of those TV myths with shotguns that you just don't have to aim them. They just spread shot all over in the direction you want it to go. And that's apparently not true, is it?
No, not at all. Like, I really thought I would just hit whatever was in front of me, and I hit nothing.
So she taught you to aim. She taught you a lot about safety. She even went so far as to bring out a blue gun and teach you with that where you couldn't possibly hurt yourself. Now, did you have any problems with the blue gun? Was it, oh my goodness, there's a gun? Or was that easier? Was it almost as hard? What'd you think?
It was way easier. It was like, okay, I have a toy gun. Well, no big deal. So to that, it wasn't, it made it easier. It made me a little more comfortable with, okay, this is happening. It weighed a little bit less.
Yeah, they do.
Significantly. But it just got me comfortable with the idea that this was coming up and I was going to be doing that. Once we got through the basic safety, I wasn't trying to, turn around with the gun pointing at people. So she just let me shoot for a while. And I had a good time. By the end of it, it was, okay, go as fast as you can. And we tried a couple different guns to see what I would be more comfortable with. We started with a 22, and I shot a 38 special, and she even pulled out her own 9mm for me to shoot just to see if I liked that. That was kind of cool.
The 38 special, a revolver?
Yeah.
What'd you think of the revolver?
I hated it.
You hated it?
I shot, I think, maybe a total of 3 rounds. I shot 1 round, and I was like, yeah, no.
Now, that was immediately after the 22?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably some of it. It beat you up a little?
Yeah, it was rough. It really hurt my wrist. Same with the 9mm. That 9mm I was using was hurting my wrist quite a bit. I just didn't care for it.
But you did like the 22?
I did like the 22. I actually shot again last weekend with the boyfriend.
Oh, cool.
We murdered 2016. Last year was a bad year, so we decided to shoot a calendar.
Ah. So many men who shoot ask this one question: how do I get my wife or girlfriend to learn how to shoot? So what do you think was the key to your learning and enjoying the experience?
I had to get there on my own terms. I was coming from a place of anxiety and terror, and I had to realize a couple of things. Number one, I had to realize that I was going to be living pretty deep in the woods and that there's more than just the cute little Bambi running around. On the first night we were there, we heard lots of howling and we'd seen critter tracks. I had to know how to use something because I didn't want to be out for a hike or a run or out working on the property and get mauled by a mountain lion or a bear. Number two, once we really got to the point where I was moving in and we were in with him, we were buying a house, it was that I was going to have guns around me from now on. And I really figured it was better to know how to use them so I wouldn't end up some random statistic. I wasn't comfortable living in a house with them and having zero clue about safety or anything. I could just imagine someone breaking in while he was out of town, and if they're all over the place, someone else could just grab something and use it on me. Maybe a little paranoia, maybe. But it just made sense to me to be safe about it if I'm going to be around them. You're talking to a chick who went to a bunch of anti-gun rallies after Columbine. So I was very much on the opposite end of the gun debate for pretty much most of my life. It was really strange for me to have enjoyed the class just because I came from such the opposite end, but I couldn't really refute the logic that he would use when he was talking to me about them. So it was a strange place for me. When I got home from class and he got home from work, he put every gun that he owned into my hand, I think just to see if the magic would wear off and I'd start freaking out again. So the easiest thing to do is ask your significant other maybe what makes them hesitate, what makes them worry about it, why don't they want to shoot, and really try to understand their aversion, and you'll probably get a lot further. Maybe take some time and really hear what it is that your partner has to say. Maybe something happened to them a long time ago and loud noises frighten them. Maybe it's just understanding the mechanics. It could be any little thing, and it could be something silly and simple that you show it to them and, oh, well, that makes sense. And they'll be, okay, fun, yay. I think it takes women a really long time to get to the point where they're okay with the idea of shooting and possibly killing something. And they might not see it as a fun activity, but I think once they get past that point of whatever is terrifying them, and they try it and they get into it a little bit, they'll have a little fun.
So you'll be shooting again?
Yes, I will.
All right, Allie, it was good to talk with you. We'll see you again soon.
It was great to talk to you, Sean. See you soon.
If you live in Colorado and would like to take a class from Jenna at Carry On Colorado, you can find her website at carryoncolorado.com. If you'd like to follow Allie and her boyfriend building their house on 16 acres of Colorado wilderness, check out their Facebook page. There's a link in the show notes. Also included in the show notes are links to the 2 Liberty Safe handgun vaults that I recommended to Allie.
Tiffany is on assignment and will return soon.
And now it's time for Blue Collar Prepping with that bratty kid sister of the gun blogosphere, Erin Paulette.
Come on, every pony! It's time for Blue Collar Prepping with Erin Paulette!
About 2 weeks ago, I received an email from one of our listeners in reaction to my segment on PTSD. I won't go into great detail on what the letter said, because it's personal and not my story to tell, but I can say that the listener thanked me for the segment and said it had great applicability to his situation because he was about to observe the anniversaries of the deaths of 2 of his children. So I hope my segment helped you, dear listener, and thank you for writing because it brings up a worthwhile topic for discussion. Why does the loss of a loved one hurt us like a physical injury? And the answer again comes from Lawrence Gonzalez's book Surviving Survival, and it's very simple. The brain is the organ that interprets what is and isn't pain. It doesn't matter to the brain if you're upset because you've stubbed your toe or if you're upset because you've lost a loved one. All it knows is that you're upset and showing the physiological signs of it. Increased heart rate and blood pressure, rapid breathing, crying, yelling or screaming or cursing, etc. And so the brain dutifully interprets this as pain. There are 2 effects going on here. The first is that the brain doesn't differentiate between emotional pain and physical pain because to the brain there is no difference. Pain, anxiety, arousal, all of these are interpreted by the brain from nerve signals that the body is sending out. So when someone looks at you and says that your pain is all in your head, you just go ahead and give them the stink eye because, duh, where else would it be? What's more, because the body sends signals to the brain and the brain loves to notice and remember patterns, recall that phrase, fire together, wire together, this means that your posture can influence how you feel. If you adopt a posture of grief, shoulders hunched, head forward of your hips, face in your hands, you will start to feel sad even if you have nothing to feel sad about. Similarly, if you smile, the neurons that fire when you smile go, he's smiling, therefore he must be happy, so we'll feel happy. This gives us some effective strategies for coping with grief. First, realize that just because something is in your head doesn't make what you're feeling any less real. Everything you sense and feel is by definition all in your head, so just stop with that self-defeating line of thought. You feel what you feel, and your feelings are valid. Next, adopt a posture that your brain doesn't associate with sadness, and you will start to feel better. Incidentally, this is why exercise is also good for helping overcome grief and depression. Your brain associates other mental and emotional states with those postures, as well as the endorphin release that comes from exercise. If at all possible, adopt a posture of a desired emotional state. For example, putting a pencil between your teeth uses many of the same muscles as smiling, so, fire together, wire together, you start to feel better because your brain thinks you're smiling and therefore happy. And finally, understand that your desire to lash out in anger is completely understandable. Now, I thought I was just a jerk with a hair-trigger temper because every time I stubbed my toe, I had an instant white-hot desire to hurt, maim, kill, and destroy whatever object I'd bumped into. Well, as it turns out, this is actually a reflex that's been hardwired deep into mammalian brains as a survival mechanism. If the brain senses pain from the body, its first assumption is that we are being eaten by a predator, and so our immediate reflex is to kill whatever's hurting us before it kills us. The fact that you've been able to think, why would I want to murder a door jamb? That's a ridiculous overreaction, isn't something to be ashamed of. Instead, feel relief that your mind was able to realize you weren't being eaten and was able to rein in that impulse before you did something drastic, like hurt your hand punching the door. So don't ever feel ashamed of your feelings. What you feel isn't your choice, but how you react to those feelings is.
Protect Minnesota is against a new bill that would bring Stand Your Ground to the land of 10,000 lakes. Weird starts a 3-part series on their press conference. In This Week in Anti-Gun Nuttery.
So Bill HF 238 has been introduced in Minnesota, and it would bring what is commonly known as Stand Your Ground to the land of 10,000 lakes. Since it's a good bill and favors gun owners, Protect Minnesota had no choice but to oppose it, and they had a large press conference to express their opposition. I'll start off with the group's president, Reverend Nancy Nordbentz.
Protect Minnesota is an independent state-based gun violence prevention group, and we are here with Moms Demand Action, our partners, to stand against Stand Your Ground, HF 238.
Oh, they're working with Moms Demand Action now. Joan Peterson was their former president, and she was a board member of the Brady campaign. Interesting to see how the alliances are shifting.
This is a bad bill for a number of reasons, and I want to begin by saying that this bill is also completely and totally unnecessary. Current Minnesota state law already gives Minnesotans the right to use lethal force in self-defense.
It does, but currently a lawful citizen operating on public property may not use lethal force unless they have attempted and failed to retreat. This is bad law, as the time for retreat is before you feel threatened, or at least before the situation escalates enough to justify deadly force. It is accepted that a lethal force scenario happens when somebody has the ability and opportunity to cause death or serious injury to you or others, and is showing an imminent jeopardy of an attack. If one or two of these factors have presented themselves to you, this is a great time to find somewhere else to be. But when all three are presented, you should be concerned with ending the threat, not with how to get away, or even if you can get away.
Protect Minnesota stands with those who will be put at risk by a bill that basically allows you to shoot anyone who scares you.
I guess I could be charitable and call this a half-truth. I mean, an imminent threat of death or serious injury presented by someone with both ability and opportunity to do so is pretty scary stuff. But that's not what she is talking about.
Protect Minnesota stands with communities of color because this bill will put communities of color at great risk. We stand with immigrants because this bill will put immigrants at great risk. We stand with Muslims and Sikhs and anyone who wears a different kind of clothing because of their faith commitment, because this bill will put them at risk.
No! Lethal force is never justified because somebody is the wrong color or somebody is dressed funny. This is an abhorrent lie and a foolish lie. I understand the anti-rights forces are willing to say anything to oppose our rights. But how wise is it to be saying that this law grants immunity to people shooting people of color or people dressed in foreign garb in the event the law does pass?
We stand with nurses and home health care providers and social workers who have to go into other people's homes because this bill will put them at terrible risk.
Unless they're climbing through the window in the middle of the night, how is an in-home nurse going to be an imminent threat? A lie and fear-mongering.
We stand with those who suffer from mental illness, whom we know are much more likely to suffer and be victims of violence than to be perpetrators of violence, but this bill will put them at risk.
If you are mentally ill, you have no right to threaten or attack people, and such behavior should never be tolerated in polite society. And if no threats are made, force is not justified.
We stand with meter readers and pizza deliverers and kids whose frisbees go over the wrong hedge, because all of these groups, all of these people, all of these citizens of Minnesota will be put at great risk by this legislation.
Okay, she's just nuts. Just think of the mentality that creates this warped nightmare land that she lives in. A lesser-known duty to retreat verbiage in the law books is what's holding back pure pandemonium. Yes, past stand your ground and suddenly the guy down the street's going to shoot the pizza delivery guy or the neighbor's kid as he retrieves an errant frisbee. Change just one law and it's Lord Humongous and the Road Warrior all over Minnesota.
Again, you have made me unleash my dogs of war.
But she's not alone. State Senator John Marty had this to say.
A kid who does something wrong, a kid who goes and tries to steal a bike out of your garage, you have the legal grounds under this case to shoot them.
No, you don't. Unless this theft also adds breaking and entering and threats, in which case this is not a minor crime. Why would you side with a violent criminal over the victim of a serious crime? I'll close with some remarks of State Representative Raymond Den.
For those of you who don't know, we've had several shootings in the past few days in my district, not just in North Minneapolis, but also in downtown. And I bring that up because I think it's important to try to dig down what this bill is about. I think this bill is about promoting fear.
Well, if people are getting shot all over your district, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing to be afraid of.
It's about creating this narrative that the people that aren't like me or aren't like us are out to get me. And the only way I can protect myself is to get a gun. And if I feel threatened, I can shoot those people because they're different.
But you just said there's a violence problem in your district. This law is about defending your life from such violence. And no matter how much you claim it's about race, that doesn't make it true. These are bad faith arguments, which leads me to ask, if they were on the side of truth and justice, why would they feel so compelled to lie? I'd like to thank the Gun Owners Caucus of Minnesota for providing me with the fact sheets in the show notes, and I'd urge all Minnesota residents to contact your representatives and ask them to support this bill.
In addition to appearing here, Weird is a regular host on The Squirrel Report and blogs at weirdworld.com. That's WEERD world.com.
Because Barron is a relatively new daddy, he's been checking out some baby gear. He has a review for us today on something he thinks is perfect for the modern tactical dad.
I would like to talk about something that's pretty dang awesome. I have a mission critical baby carrier, which is just downright neat. If you're not familiar with this and you have young kids, please continue listening. Everyone else, you just might find this funny. The mission critical baby carrier is a tactical baby carrier for all your tactical needs. It's basically a plate carrier, but for your kid. So you put your kid in the plate carrier, but it's not a plate carrier, it's a baby carrier. And there's Molly on the front, so you can put a little pouch so that he can reach his water bottle or snacks or whatever else. And then on the back, it actually has an attachment backpack system, so you can carry a diaper bag, and it's just sitting right there on the back. It even has a changing pad and a few other things, and there's Molly everywhere, so you can attach whatever you want. Not only that, it leaves your arms free and clear to do things while you're also having to deal with the kid. So, for example, say you needed to shoot somebody in the face. You don't have to worry about holding on to the kid. You can use your arms for what you need to do, which is draw your gun and shoot person in the face. It's just a really, really neat, wonderful product. It doesn't make you look like a girly man. It makes you look like a tactical man. The thing is, though, they're missing a really awesome opportunity for a really badass commercial.
The little old ladies glare at you when you tell your tiny tactical offspring to stop whining. It's only a 3-mile march. I did way longer in the stand.
Things like that. Or,
do you have children? Do they constantly want you to pick them up because their tiny legs get tired, but you don't want to look like a weenie for using your wife's baby carrier? Get a mission-critical baby carrier and look like the badass dad you are.
Or my personal favorite.
Has this ever happened to you? My legs are tired. Or, Dad, carry me. This is a really long walk. Or, Dad, I'm thirsty.
Lastly, the dreaded,
oh, what's that smell? Oh no! Oh no! WMDs have been deployed! Grab the mop gear! Yeah, we've all been there.
So, now you can have the correct tools for the job so you can easily be that awesome dad that you want to be.
Get your Mission Critical baby gear at missioncritical.cc.
Oh, dear me. That is hilarious. I really have only one question here. And Barron might not be able to answer this, but maybe we can ask it of his wife. I want to know how well this carrier system interfaces with a female's chest. Because, for relatively flat-chested women, this really wouldn't be a problem. But for some of the ladies who are more well-endowed, the whole plate carrier system might be just a touch uncomfortable.
It's for boys, Aaron. It's for tactical manly men, not for girls. Girls can get their own stuff.
Oh, shut up. I'd wear the hell out of this if I had a kid.
Barron didn't talk about it in his review. He was really tired after 13 hours at work, but he took to carrying business cards for these guys. Everywhere he'd go carrying his son in this thing, men would come up to him and say, "That is the coolest thing ever. Where do I get something like that?" And he'd just shell out business cards because it was easier to say, well, here's a business card than it is to try to, well, here's the website or, this is who makes it. They were incredibly popular when he was walking around with it. So if you're going to have a baby or you just had a baby and you're going to have to carry him around, there's no sense looking like, oh, I got a flowery thing on. Get yourself one of these. It's pretty cool.
I'm just going to forestall something because I can already hear in my head the voices of the women going, oh, these guys, they're so insecure in their masculinity. They've got to have something that's all black and tactical with straps on it before they'll carry a kid. And I think that's BS because it's the same sort of marketing that I have seen work time and time again where women won't buy anything if it's ugly, but stick up, coat a pink paint on it, and suddenly, oh, it's cute, and I've got to have it. This is the exact same thing, just gender switched. It really shouldn't matter how it looks. What is important to hear is that the man is carrying the kid. He's being a father. That's what's important. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
It doesn't really bother you any at all, does it?
Only a little bit. I can't stand double standards. But yeah, I would wear this thing. I'm sitting here looking at it and I'm wondering, it's obviously based off a plate carrier. I wonder if you could actually carry plates in it along with the kid.
Then there's the whole problem of, shouldn't you turn the baby away from the gunfire if you can? And not turn the plate to the,
Yeah, okay, maybe not the plate in the front because, that wouldn't really work well with the kid, but you could armor the back, right?
Maybe. I think what we need to do to test this out thoroughly is we need to send Barron to Melody Lauer's class, the baby carrying gun class that she does with John Johnston.
Yeah. When you first had me look at this thing, I thought that would actually work really well, but I didn't quite figure out how you'd protect the kid's hearing. And so then I was thinking about, there's probably something in Melody's class about, turning their head and whatever.
Well, they don't actually put the baby in the carrier during the class. They give you a sand baby.
Duh. I am aware that there is a substitute. I don't know. Someone presents me with something like this, and I start looking at the logistics of it. Like,
right,
okay,
the
you want to
same
protect
thing you
the kid,
did with my ankle holster
hearing,
for my medical gear. Oh, what am I going to do if I'm wearing shorts? Well, then you just don't wear it, Aaron. Oh, what about the baby's hearing? What about the baby's going to get killed in the gunfight if the dad doesn't shoot back? Okay, let's focus on the important stuff here,
audience
Aaron.
Has. Oh, it's not important. Oh, if Sean doesn't think of it, it's not important. Ooh.
Let's get our priorities straight here. Dad's only hauling out a gun if it's a death or serious bodily injury. Well, yeah, maybe the baby's hearing's going to be a little messed up.
Well,
baby won't die if dad shoots back, right? Isn't that the important thing?
Well, yes, that is the important thing.
Well,
I'm not denying that.
But yeah, you're right. So what we need to do is we need to get... They have those really cool tactical hearing things where they're like hearing aids, but they're not hearing aids.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just get them fitted for the baby.
There you go.
All right, there we go. We solved all the world's problems here today. We're going to have to come back next week when there's a whole new set, right?
Absolutely.
Well, that's our show for the week. Remember that GunBlog VarietyCast Radio is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Find the show notes at gunblogvarietycast.com/episode 150.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the GunBlog VarietyCast. Music courtesy of Rob Allen at blog.roballen.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play Music. This podcast is made possible by the Firearms Policy Coalition and by contributions from listeners like you. This is a URS production.